Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I'm 7 minutes late, but I have good reason. Um, uh, welcome. Oh god, it has the wrong name too. Don't worry, it'll fix itself. Right? It'll fix itself. There we go. Yep. Okay. Why is the... There we go. Okay. Oh boy. So, that's gonna be there for a while. Um, if you look down here, this is my CPU temperature. It's currently rocking around ding. It's been bouncing around 70 degrees, up to 70 degrees, between 60 and 70. That's because it's working overtime right now. I made a horrible miscalculation and I mistimed how long it would take to render uh, this footage, in which it approximately has 40 more minutes to go. So hopefully by the time this episode is over, it'll be done. So I'm rendering some footage from my earlier streams of COD Cold War. I actually redid one of the missions because I fucked up. I forgot to save someone, and a bunch of shit happened that I didn't do. And it was not a very clean playthrough either. So I redid one of the missions and whatnot. But point is, this is the Burning Bush Podcast. A podcast in which me and sometimes a guest talk about various things in the world out there. And how it pertains to other things, such as my religious upbringing. And one of the things that, while I mess with this microphone, 1 second. I apologize for my haphazard intro. I am, like I said, I was rendering this and it was taking way too long, among other things. But I do have a very juicy topic tonight, almost as juicy as a thick bottom thotty. And this topic is aptly named in the description of this episode, Doublethink Thotties, in which, if you are familiar with George Orwell, Zero Calories, George Orwell's work 1984, in which he implemented the language of ingsoc, and I just recently reread it. I say that because I've read it about twice prior, and then this third time was on an audiobook, which was pretty entertaining. But point is, Orwell is one of my favorite authors, and his I don't know if repudiation is the right word, but his commentary on totalitarianism and authority is very interesting because he is a marked socialist. However, the way he portrays communism as anti-socialist and, of course, more dictator, or not even dictator, because it's like less about dictators and more about ideologies. There we go. The stream elements has fixed itself. But Orwell talked a lot about the idea in his language, the new language of the world, where there's less words, because if someone does not have a word to describe how they feel, it is often difficult to do so. So imagine, for example, you take out the word, let's say something that is very critical. So like lying. Lie is no longer in the dictionary, and it's phased out from existence, so that no one has a word to describe when you tell someone something that is not what really happens. And see how you have to like really elaborate on the phrase just to get across that it's a lie? Like, what is a lie? It is a, and you have to use words that are like, say for example, in this Ingsoc language dictionary that is used in 1984, where you have a lot of less descriptive qualifiers, but then you add like double or double plus to signify like increased amounts. Like we have good, but we don't have bad. We have ungood. We don't have great. We have double good. And we don't have amazing. We have double plus good. And we don't have elated. We have double plus plus good. And we don't have horrible. We have double ungood or double plus ungood. And so we get rid of words to simplify the language so that people have less ways of expressing how they feel. Good, ungood. Well, I don't want to be ungood. I want to be good because that's the root word. So the idea of Ingsoc is inevitably, changing language into something that is controllable. And I believe that if you watched my last episode, it was very satirical in the sense of kind of how I view how the world is. And, you know, it's satire, it's a joke, it's not meant to be a political statement. Although every joke has a sprinkle of truth in it. And as such, Ingsoc has this concept within its language called doublethink, which inherently implies a strong sense of cognitive dissonance. And that will be the topic of today's podcast, is cognitive dissonance. Because I forgot to do my welcome card. And it's not going to show up because I forgot to relocate it because I put it in a folder now. But anyways, cognitive dissonance. That's the topic today. And, well, I hope there's not audio playing right now because I need to put the cans on. Alrighty. And so I'm talking about cognitive dissonance. And why did I bring up 1984? And I'm sure you heard that. 1984 and Ingsoc and doublethink is because cognitive dissonance is something that's very real and very much used in today's society that is directly stemming from this concept of doublethink. So what I'm going to try to do and avoid right now is use one to explain the other by saying like, oh, doublethink is basically cognitive dissonance. And what's cognitive dissonance? Well, it's basically doublethink. And so to elaborate without redundancy, I would say that doublethink is the concept of knowingly doing something that goes against what you believe without questioning it. Like, you could look at the letters on my shirt and say, those letters are black. You look at the shirt, I have got a little bit of lighting going on, but you can clearly see what color the letters on my shirt are, or my shirt in general, besides some of the darker areas. My shirt is most definitely not lettered in black. It is white. However, I can convincingly tell myself every day that the letters on my shirt, if I were to wear the shirt every day, are black. Or, everyday example, my hair is white. And I could convince myself to believe my hair is white. However, I know that my hair is not white, it's black. That is the concept of doublethink. And cognitive dissonance finds itself similarly, but in a real-world scenario, for example, cheating on a test. The feeling afterwards is this, depending on who you are, but generally speaking, the feeling that you experience is this sort of guilt. The guilt that you've done something terrible, that you didn't earn your place. And you feel this way because there is this archetype within society that you must work hard in order to succeed, and if you don't and take shortcuts, it will bite you in the back later on in life. For example, with cheating, like let's say something incredibly impossible, but you cheat your way through medical school, and then you start having to do surgery and have no idea what you're doing because you never paid attention in class. That is like an example of why the archetype that you need to work hard to succeed is true. Because when you think of situations like that, where you have no idea what you're doing and you need to do something that requires an idea of how to do it, that is a recipe for disaster. So we have this cognitive dissonance that forms when we cheat because it's obviously um, easily separated into our actions and our intents. And so our actions are, in this case, cheating on the test and are punishable and deplorable by the system in which you are taking the test in. Our intentions, of course, or our ideologies or our super ego is what we see ourselves as, and in this case, it's working hard to understand the material and get a good grade, rather than cheat to get a good grade without actually understanding the material. And so that's the intent. And what cognitive dissonance is the melding of our beliefs with our actions, and redirecting our psychology behind our perceptions of such actions within the framework of our beliefs. Well, everyone was cheating on that test, so why does it matter that I did? By doing this, you rein in on your beliefs and adjust them. Oh, camera froze. I love when this happens. At least I know when it happens because it's quite obvious. But I'm sure they'll fix this eventually. Um, but as I was saying, cognitive dissonance imposes your beliefs into your actions, even if cognitively, when you think about it, when you acknowledge your belief system, the action is completely separate. Cheating on a test, I would never do that. And this is just one example, but we do these things, such as everyone was doing it, or I mean, it wasn't that important of a test. It's something I'll never use in life, or um, I'm not hurting anyone, that sort of thing. Those are all justifications that drive and lower the dissonance. Dissonance meaning the lack of how do I put this? It's the lack of unity in your beliefs and decisions, and dissonance is just going against one another in that respect. So dissonance in general just means like something that is unattracted or the antithesis of another action or sort of thing. The dissonance between a screeching orangutan and a violinist is very apparent. There's a dissonance between their two sounds. One is orderly and organized, and the other one is chaotic and primal. So dissonance is commonly used to describe things like that. Dissonance in beliefs, like the conservatives and socialists. I don't know if that's. I think that would probably be the distinction is in terms of a lot of this, capitalists and socialists. Um, and these all have dissonances. With cognitive dissonance, you have those same sort of things. Like, I know that in order to succeed in life, you shouldn't cheat, but I cheated on the test. So what cognitive dissonance is, in summation, is the effect of us understanding those differences in our beliefs and our actions and what we do to minimize those differences. For example, justifying why you cheated on the test, or downplaying the severity of cheating on this particular test. And so cognitive dissonance revolves around this sort of thing. And doublethink is a form of cognitive dissonance in which you say that, for example, I really don't like using controversial things, but I feel like sometimes that's what gets certain points across. But like I'll do one I haven't done, because I always think about a lot of ones that would probably upset very ultra liberal minded people, and I will do one that upsets ultra conservative people, I guess. The cognitive dissonance is that um, abortion will continue to be pushed for in this country as much as gun control, or as I should say, gun rights. And so the dissonance there is, of course, that sorry, this freaking thing is taking forever to load, and I'm regretting doing that. But the dissonance in that is, okay. You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna have to use a far left jabbing sort of example to get my point across at first, because it's very strongly more applicable in my opinion. But point is, I'm trying to come up with a good cognitive dissonance in terms of creating dissonance for someone that is very far left reaching. You could say that let's say that Black Lives Matters as a movement ultimately failed because it was hijacked by radical groups that twisted the original intent of the movement. And the people I'm talking about, to quote Joe Biden, you ain't black. Most of the people that hijacked the movement were not black. So, much like you cannot protest about certain things, like, for example, if this was military lives matter, in a world where the military is very disenfranchised for whatever reason, and there are lots of military lives matter rallies hosted by people who are not in the military and who don't even have family in the military. Because I guess that's pretty much what these white Antifa people were doing for BLM, is that it's not like, sure, they might have friends that are people of color, but they're not black. Why would you allow things like that to take precedence Why would you let a movement be led by what you are fighting against? And I'm not talking about whiteness, because whiteness, I think, is illogical to call some sort of oppressing factor in and of itself. Aside from, medulla oblongata inducing primal states. But, like, why would you let not only them be a part of the movement, Black Lives Matters? It almost diminishes the value of Black Lives Matters that there's a significant white population within this group called Black Lives Matters. How many blacks are in the white supremacists? How many people of color are in the white supremacists in the KKK? And if you want to create something that truly gets rid of those sorts of notions that there is some sort of police state, or that those that work forces are the same that burn crosses, to quote Rage Against the Machine. Yes, that is sometimes true. But to let those who work forces in the same establishment that you are trying to dismantle, or maybe they're not burning crosses, but they're burning Stars of David. I don't know. That it's very troubling to see something like that happen. And the dissonance cognitively that develops from it, like, well, if they're not going to listen to peaceful protest, then we have to show them violence. Do you really think that the Black Panthers were more influential than Martin Luther King Jr.'s cohort back in the civil rights era? I can't believe that Call of Duty, of all video games in this day and age, has a somewhat decent message, even though that Activision Shanghai worked on Cold War, which is very interesting. China got their finger, because Activision's owned by Tencent, that's right. But point is, Call of Duty is, of all the games, having this message that says know your history. And it's in the entire time, it's like talking about history is written by the victor and all these sorts of things, in which I mean, it is true to certain degrees, and know your history is a very important one in regards to letting violent protests overtake Black Lives Matters. Like, people always argue about, it's like, how come you don't label the NRA as a violent group? Because, well, or no, I think it's, how come when there's a shooting, you don't blame the NRA? Or when something with guns happens, you don't blame the NRA? And one, that's a very kind of like narrow-minded question, where it's like, well, how come X is Y, checkmate Z? That's kind of what the concept behind that is. It's flawed in it of itself, but also, gosh, this is a very dense topic. But with cognitive dissonance, in this example, sorry, this, I need to like not pay attention to this thing rendering in the bottom right. But know your history. In the civil rights movement, Black Panthers were not the ones that elicited change in developing civil rights and civil liberties. It was the MLK group, the ones that were literally doing nothing wrong but existing, that really got the message across. And the fact that it's been hijacked by these alt-left groups that are as much terrorists as the KKK are, to say that yes, both groups are. Um, I don't think the Proud Boys. This is probably where people are gonna call me out. I don't really think the Proud Boys, in comparison, are necessarily as tended towards violence, but they are pretty extreme, very extremist. I think they were formed in response of Antifa gaining traction. I don't think they've always existed, and they definitely have. They've formed as a reaction to what's going on with Antifa. For every action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. And if an alt-left group forms, then an alt-right group forms, and the form of cognitive dissonance for people that we're getting back to the case of BLM being this kind of cognitive dissonance in of itself due to Antifa taking over. The cognitive dissonance is saying that even though Proud Boys came up because of Antifa, essentially, the cognitive dissonance would be, well, it's a improper fallacy to use alt-right groups in comparison to alt-left groups. So you can't really compare Antifa and Proud Boys. Proud Boys is an alt-right group, whereas Antifa is more of a progressive concept or movement. And that's a form of cognitive dissonance, because you're kind of distancing yourself from the political opposite and de facto twin. Like when you look at them from their methods and meaning, they're essentially the same group. Except the Proud Boys, this is where I would argue that they don't have the same authoritative values as the Antifa groups. They're more like, you leave us alone or we'll make you leave us alone. Let me be happy. And a lot of these groups on the left say no guns, Kyle Rittenhouse did this, Black Lives Matters more, whatever they're saying. And there's a lot of bystanders that are like, well, they're not the alt-right, they're more of a movement that condone their actions, and it creates this sort of incurable welt that's developing as a result. I think that the proof is in the pudding when it comes to this particular example. And I think the biggest proof in that is the media unofficially called Biden the victor. How many cities, how many riots, how many lootings have happened by Republicans or pro-Republican candidates as a result of the election? I think that is a fact. I don't know what else you want me to say. It's like, well, you're nitpicking details out of blah blah blah. Like, okay, I will say in the past year and a half, how many riots and lootings and arsons were committed because of the left, because of the injustices or the injustices of the socialist movement. And one would argue, and this is another form of cognitive dissonance, is that, well, the socialist left is a minority group, so they don't have any opportunity to oppress the right. Well, you don't. The opportunity to oppress is the most backwards sounding statement ever. And of course I'm projecting. I'm not a member of the alt-left or the far left that I can speak on behalf and say that this is exactly what they would say, but that's the visceral reaction a lot of people would have is like, well, it's because you're not the one in charge. Quoting Joe Biden is, um, uh, long awkward pause is why you had 8 years when you were VP to do all these things. Why didn't you do it then? Because Congress was Republican. That's your answer. And so he's right to a degree, you know? It's this cognitive dissonance that, well, we can't do this because that, not because we were pushing for the greater good or whatever. You know, we always come up with excuses and justifications for our actions, and you know, Trump was no saint. Don't get me wrong, but there's this very widespread movement towards literally denouncing anything that does not fit your narrative, and that's what we're drawn in today. So, picking up after your dog, that's another good example where, oh yeah, everyone leaves the dog shit on the fucking lawn, and like, you don't need to. Or getting enough exercise, where it's like, oh no, I'll just eat less today, or you know, I'll do a hard workout tomorrow, or these other ones too, eating meat, being an animal lover and eating meat, being productive at work, you know. These are examples of cognitive dissonance, and I was trying to look up some Freudian stuff on cognitive dissonance, but let me open up a tab incognito. Let's see. So, let's see. Election 2020. Let's get into the real cognitive dissonance. So I'm obviously, it's still got my IP address, so it's going to have a great deal of difference. But as you can see, I'm not signed in, so this is just what the first top news comes out. CNN, Fox News, CNN, CBS, Sky News, 11 Alive, I don't know what that is. Sky News, 11 Alive, MSNBC, BBC, Finance Hub, Global News, Robert Bonavito, CPA, Today, CBS. Okay, so you get the idea. It's a lot of legacy media. Fareed, the conspiracy theory of the 2020 election is here to stay. Makes the case that Trump's attempts to delegitimize the results of the US 2020 election are conspiracy. What is the fallout from the 2020 election? Pro-Trump groups gather in Washington to protest election. This is not normal. On Trump. Trump closer to accepting the reality of his election defeat. Georgia nearly finished with recount. Trump supporters protest against voter fraud. Georgia retaliation efforts continue. Trump supporters march and protest. Wow, they're actually is democracy in crisis. Breaking updated map shows Donald Trump winning 2020. So finance is pro-Trump and everyone else is just talking about there isn't an ounce of evidence of election fraud. So I'm going to look at, pause this, I don't really give a shit about mainstream media. Or legacy as I like to call them. And let's see what the comments say. Robespierre, the secret of freedom is educating the people, whereas the secret of tyranny is keeping them ignorant. Civilizations die by suicide, not by murder. Perhaps America, if this lunacy continues. Let's see what the responses are. Trump president. And Biden the ignorant. What is your video about? Okay. What is all this? Well, no, our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is a lie. Besides Trump, Newt Gingrich, a slime ball. How is President of the United States? I like how a lot of people refuse to say Trump, like it's gonna turn you into a stone, like saying Voldemort. How is Trump conducting a disinformation campaign against the American people not treason? How is conducting a disinformation campaign not treason? It just shows how easily some people can be manipulated. Sad for those people who are brainwashed by Trump's lies. I'm gonna like that. No, I have to sign in. I have to be impartial, everyone. Baldy. Whatever. So you get the point. I will mix Fox News. Looks like Newsmax is their replacement. Bye, Fox. You effed it up. The fallout is that conservatives are starting to see Fox News for the money-loving frauds that they are. Probably the best thing that will happen after this election is the end of Fox. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Well done for putting the nail in the coffin. Fox just lost millions of viewers. Cannot be trusted anymore. Ew. Fox News destroys itself. So, okay, Fox. So, with CNN, they're basically just Trump is evil, Trump is horrible. With Fox, they're like, Fox is evil, Fox are a bunch of idiots. Pro-Trump groups. Pro-Trump groups. Pro-Trump groups. Pro-Trump groups. Gather in Washington. The current epidemic of stupidity in America is far more dangerous than COVID. Wow. I think that's honestly the justification of 20,000 up dudes. That's incredibly insulting. The epidemic of stupid. Okay. Let's find a CNN article about it. Let's see, 9 million.
We're here inside CNN Center. We're just in the last 10 minutes. Demonstrators have started to come.
CNN only calls it violent when it affects them. Okay. Let's see. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have looked up protests because all of them just say CNN getting dunked on. Oh god. Colonial statues. Let's see what they say. Out of the billions donated to BLM, nothing went to blacks. Yeah, okay, so it's honestly people are waking up, which is nice, but there's a lot of this is really serious, and not the whole country cares or gets it. Admitting that you were wrong is difficult enough, but to admit that you were duped is much harder. When I see Gail interviewing, she won't pull Gail. Someone lock Trump in a genjutsu. Let him sit in a room, think he's won till he goes away, lol. 485 votes. The real problem is, people would rather double down on being wrong than to admit they were wrong. Lol. Especially, I mean, isn't that what they did with Hillary? Oh, it was Russian collusion. 45. Yeah, I refuse to say his name. I'm gonna call him the president, or I'm gonna call him the 45th president of the United States. People are really dumb, honestly. I don't get this idea. I'm gonna look it up. Why do people call Trump 45, or don't people call Trump by his name? on not saying Donald Trump's name. Okay, it's some bullshit about like salience. I don't really fucking care, but it's ironic and stupid because by saying 45, you're saying that he's the 45th president of the United States. Therefore, you're acknowledging him as president. Or if you say POTUS, you're like, oh, president of the United States. You're literally calling him by his title, which is honestly more important in today's day and age than calling him by his name. So you're actually glorifying him by calling him president, president, president. Not my president, hashtag. Anyways. Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at some of these comments. What's at stake here? The continuity of the nation. What? I don't know. Okay, let's see. Sky News. Trump closer to accepting the reality. 3.4 thousand downvotes. George Soros is paying your network.
Right there.
What's
a week
happening?
Since the election was called. Enough people call it rigged. Side only for.
I don't know what this is.
But we begin with the statewide
11 Alive
2020 presidential election, which continues this morning all across our state. Election workers are currently retallying nearly 5 million ballots with the deadline at the middle of the week, Wednesday.
Okay, so there's a lot of people with sense out there. What is this? What is this, like, mainstream notion? I'm not even going to say mainstream because apparently it's not that mainstream to say that all of this is bullshit. I mean, it is mainstream to call this all bullshit because, like, everyone I'm looking, people are calling this shit out as not necessarily fraud, like voter fraud, but just the whole system's corrupt, which could lead to bad things happening, which are leading to bad things happening. Oh god, more fake news. Nice. God, everyone's calling this shit out. I don't understand.
Right now, DC's
MSNBC. Look at this. The Eggman. The Eggman and a literal witch. No offense. Weren't all these snowflakes calling Hillary voters sore losers and get over it? Joe Biden is the next president of the United States of America. One word this president says his supporters believe it. Show how easily people can be brainwashed. Looks like the snowflakes traded in their pea hats for MAGA hats. What does this mean? What are snowflakes? When I asked if he believes the call for Trump in North Carolina, he replied, that one was different. Stop the Steal is Roger Stone's fun and games. He set it up way back in 2016, ready to dispute the 2016 election if Trump lost. These people would follow Hitler with their hate, no difference. Jesus Christ, these guys are so hateful. This is the cognitive dissonance I'm talking about. It's literally, these people would follow Hitler with their hate, no difference. Look it up, dummy. They're not hate groups, but they are vilified by your god Trump and hate groups. Wake up and smell the cult, fox sucker. Wow. Jesus, shut up, prejudiced white man. Get a job. They love their country and stand for freedom. Wow. See, I think what a lot of people don't understand is you need to realize that what you're saying is very extreme. They should all be wearing shirts that say, I'm with stupid. That's really mean. Like, why are you being so mean? Why are you being so mean to me right now? I can hear the chants now. This is what idiocy looks like. These are the same snowflakes who will leave. What is this? What is, they will loose. They will loose. Loose what? Loose an arrow? Just like Trump lost the election. Trump needs to give concession speech. Poor, deluded, pathetic individuals. How many of these things will get COVID? Are you freaking kidding me? That's really mean. Answer, a lot. Like, there is no... Ooh. Oh god, and just arguments. Was somebody handing out diapers and pacifiers for the babies? Ignorance and stupidity even worse than COVID. What? Fascists marching in the streets, what could go wrong? You are a fascist. So sad, the MAGA tears are flowing. Called 45s win in 2016 with no complaint. Okay, what are these people doing? So, let's see what these are saying. Are they saying these people get COVID? Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they were fooled. Yeah, okay. Oh my gosh. You leftists or you're racist. Wow. And followed none of his values. The biggest enemy of the black man are white liberals. Okay. So it's like people are hating on BLM. No. People are... Oh, let's see what they say. Oh, comments are turned off. That's a smart move.
Let's dive.
And last one I'm going to watch because this is incredibly painful to read through, but I must do it because you know why? None of these people's comments I'm reading right now, none of their comments right now will ever see the light of day to people on the far right because you know why? They don't follow these news outlets anymore. They haven't for a while. And you know what? The people on the far left that wrote those comments will never see the ones I'm about to see. Okay, so they're hating on it. Let me just look up Daily Wire, Epic Times.
Have never been higher. Whether you're new to politics or a lifelong voter.
And let's see, another conservative outlet, because Fox doesn't count. That doesn't really count. Let's say Crowder, Louder with Crowder. Let's go with that too.
So if you were to...
Okay, there are only two genders, changed my mind. The media rigged the election. The election isn't over yet. Media call it for Biden. Joe Biden is not a moderate. Let's find some BLM stuff. There's that one. That one. Okay. Do like one Crowder, one BLM with Alex Jones. That's going to be good. Sign in to confirm your
I mentioned earlier that BLM.
Oh, and then Epic Times.
So we're essentially
Epic Times. Okay. China. update on Operation Warp Speed. And let's see if we can find. There's a lot of anti-China stuff on Epic Times. Good for them. I'm Chinese, by the way, so you can't virtue signal me. Sorry. It's a lot of Chinese stuff. I think ever since the pandemic struck, it's literally just been covering that. Oh, with China too. Why is Epic Times not? Jesus. It's all about China. I mean, that's the important one, I guess. Whatever. Okay. Beijing Biden will never let Beijing Biden take control of the White House. Joe Biden will not become president and George Soros has lost. China invades Taiwan. Come on, man, they're not bad folks. This is an information war. Decouple from sources that block truth and hook up with those who share it. Where communism fails, there will always be those who still cling to its ideologies. It's called residual brainwashing. Feel sorry for them. Both sides talk about brainwashing. It's funny. If we ever do become free, maybe we can help those like the Chinese overcome their dictators. The AP, Google, or other legacy media, for that matter, have no authority in calling any sort of elections. They are nothing but platforms where you can post HTML and JPEGs. China spread the virus, eyeing us at election. We see you too, China. Interesting. All right. President, please do not let the American people down. We stand strong with you. Love you. He pissed Pfizer off. Love this president. Big Pharma should not control us. This is the world war against CCP Marxism, the deep state capitalists entering deep into media. God bless Trump. We Japanese love you. Give the vaccine to anyone who wants it. I just don't want a vaccine. I believe in you, President Trump. No surrender, no retreat. It's time to bring in the hammer down on the evil. Our President Trump, leading the cavalry, our deep appreciation. Thanks, President Trump, for your hard work in getting this done. We love you, Trump. Thank you, President Trump, for everything you do to our great country. We love you and support you. Wow. The fake news is really ramping up and shut down in the COVID-19 hype to distract the sheeple from voter fraud investigations. The AP is not the Electoral College. That was 2 days ago. He hasn't stopped. He hasn't stopped working this whole time. What's scary is all the weak-minded, gullible people in this country. You know what I should have done? I might do this next week. I should create a list of comments and we'll have to have people guess whether that was said by the right or by the left. And so I would judge it by the channels that they're set on and if they specifically mention one person or another. But I'd like to see the Daily Wire replace Fox. The media campaign for Biden, that's why he could stay in the basement. Fox News is out. They have shown their true colors during this election. I stopped paying for cable years ago. Man, does that feel extra good now. There's no such thing as an illegal vote, some Democrat. Evil triumphs when good men do nothing. Thomas Jefferson. Jeremy should talk more often about stuff. He's really good. He needs his own show like Michael, Ben, and Matt, and Andrew. It's a messed up world we live in. Everyone should share this video. Okay.
Welcome back to the...
No. It's all a mind game. They're intentionally declaring him winner so the outrage will be even higher if Trump wins. Ben Shapiro, when Trump claimed he won, he shouldn't have claimed he won. Ben Shapiro, when Biden claimed he won, he shouldn't have claimed he won. Mainstream media, he's so biased. As a left-winger, let's get one thing straight. We do not call a winner before every single vote has been processed. Democracy goes above political opinion no matter what. And Biden let slip that they built the most extensive voter fraud. He obviously meant it. It's not who votes that counts, it's who counts the vote, Joseph Stalin. I've heard that before too. That's used a lot. I'm sure he didn't actually say that, but that's the ideology behind why Stalin won so much, why he was always elected. Even if Trump loses on courts, Trump legal counsel needs to expose what happened, and 2024 voting policies need to change. I don't blame Biden. I like how most people are not saying that he's going to win no matter what. People are acknowledging that he might lose, and I think that's what the people that I was reading on the far left comments don't really acknowledge. And I think the worst thing that the people on the right news outlets will say is the same things that the left says about them being really dumb. Yeah, that would take forever, and that wouldn't happen instantly. Thought of a President Harris scares me to death. I mean, President Trump scared people to death too. Okay, and all these are Trump's gonna win by Supreme Court.
Over the weekend,
Alright, Ben. Hold the line, Patriots. This isn't over yet. We all know the Democrats rigged the election. Fox is more dead to me than Joe Biden's ballots. Unfortunately for CNN, the mainstream media doesn't get to call an election. It's not over. Yeah, just read the Constitution again. I didn't find the part where it says CNN or AP or Fox News are the ones that declare the winner of the election. I'm a registered Democrat in Pennsylvania, and I voted for Trump in person. They didn't project he would win. They declared him the winner, even though there is widespread election fraud still under investigation. Fox got exposed. They just made it more apparent. I love how COVID disappeared over the weekend. The Red Sea will close in on the Demon Cats. Thank you, Trump. Democrats. Oh, that's cute. Democrats.
Let's not forget.
Let's not forget. Oh, that's Trump's secretary or whatever. Joe Biden and everything the media accused Trump of being. Joe Biden is everything. This is not a war against Trump. This is a war against all of us, the people. Why did the Americans vote for a corrupt politician? 47 years state parasite. Why? It's going to be Kamala Harris with an air wall. So there is this great cognitive dissonance that you can see between both groups, in which you get your news from the sources that you like to hear, and it forms an echo chamber, and it's this spreading source to see which one's stronger. And okay, that's pretty bad. Bystanders celebrate police officers being shot in Compton. Okay, so this is where the left would say that is a horrible title, that is misleading, that's untruthful. That's what I think right now, at least. I don't think that there would be people like that would do that. I mean, maybe, but let's see.
BLM is one of the most morally political movements in American history.
Let me find the footage.
Aired the police out. They just aired the police out. It go up and come. Them just got aired out, cuz. They just bust on them, cuz. That's crazy. They just got aired out. Somebody ran up on the car and bust on it right through the window, in the face and all. It's a wrap.
Now, let's remember.
You decide for yourself. Was that celebrating? It's done, yay. Wow. I didn't watch that video before. I've never seen it before. That's horrible. And if Daddy Biden wants to continue appeasing so that we don't have to worry about people like that dying, the police getting killed, if there won't be any police to get killed if there are none. I guess, maybe. I don't know. That's just a horrible video to watch. But, I've seen worse. I mean, I can find humor in just about everything. But, that one's pretty deplorable. I mean, I definitely know exactly what about that would make me laugh, because I'm a horrible human being and I know how to laugh at almost any situation. Not for the sake of it, but because I've been unfortunate a lot. Anyways, that's where we'll end it. That's the cognitive dissonance today that we are experiencing. And if you think about it, both sides are doing that heavily. And in other news, Moist Critical complained about DMCA on Twitch, and I made a comment to myself and I posted it. But point is, until you actually protest the system, use something else or don't support it anymore, don't use it for your own personal gain. As long as you are gaining off of something that you're complaining about, you're biting the hand that feeds, and therefore you will never do anything significant to combat your grievances towards said thing. Anyways, that's the show for today. Tune in next week for another episode of the Burning Bush podcast. It has been me, UngoCast, and I appreciate any and all viewers who watch this. Peace out.